as soon as I finished that prayer, it's like I bounced out of my body and I became this ball of light that was flying so fast towards heaven. There were all these other balls of light that were like surrounding me. Every time one of these other balls of light would bump into my ball of light, it was like an explosion that joy like compounded to the uttermost, where I felt like I was going to explode for joy. And next thing you know, I was laying flat. I knew I was before God's throne, and I could feel like almost like a squashing weightiness of His glory upon me. And I was so heartbroken because I realized like this whole time He's been here and I have not enough. He reached in to where I was and He pulled out this little tiny scrap of paper and He held it to His heart and He said, "Thank you."
This is God's Voice Daily, where ordinary people share the moment everything changed. They weren't looking for the supernatural, but it found them. Out-of-body experiences, encounters with darkness, visions of heaven, moments that felt more real than life itself. Every day, you'll hear raw, unfiltered calls from people around the world who can't explain what happened, only that it did. And no matter how wild their story sounds, each one points back to Jesus. If you've ever felt like there's more going on than what we can see, you're in the right place. And now, here's today's featured call. Enjoy. Rhonda, you describe being taken into heaven as a radiant ball of light standing before the throne of God and experiencing a heartbreaking life review. What happened?
I was at a retreat, and this was actually when I was a new believer. And so I was terrified to go to a retreat because I'd never experienced anything like this. I was a brand new Christian. However, I felt like God was really calling me to this retreat, and I'm so thankful I went. But when I was there was this prayer time where we were just supposed to listen to God, and I had a pillow that I was kind of laying, I guess, like kind of sitting Indian style, but kind of leaning on. And while I was praying, all of a sudden I felt like the Lord was asking me to forgive my just hurts and wounds that were in my heart, and beginning with my father wounds. And so I just began to pray in ways that I've never prayed before, just releasing a lot of forgiveness for my father, for everything that he's done to hurt me, and even for myself for things I've done to hurt him. And then next it went to my mother, and same thing, just releasing all of the pain and wounds that happened in our relationship, and asking forgiveness for her part and for my part. And then next thing you know, it was Jesus. And it was like when it was Jesus, I felt like I was laying on His lap, and like He was stroking my back, and I was forgiving Him and crying to Him and just asking Him to forgive me from all of my sins, and for me to even have unforgiveness towards Him for all of the things the ways I've judged Him and the ways that I felt He hurt me. And as soon as I finished that prayer, it's like I bounced out of my body and I became this ball of light that was flying so fast towards heaven. I couldn't control it. I couldn't stop it. It was just so profound and amazing. And so as I became this ball of light flying up, it was like, it was weird because there were all these other balls of light that were like surrounding me. And what happened was sometimes I would bump into another ball and it was like an explosion of joy. And it's a joy I can't even explain. It's almost like if you could take your happiest moment when you're a child and you're just have that childlike joy, but if you were to multiply it times a million. But every time one of these other balls of light would bump into my ball of light, it was like an explosion that joy like compounded to the uttermost, where I felt like I was going to explode for joy. I don't know how else to describe it, but and it felt like I was going super fast, like out of atmospheres. And then next thing you know, like I could tell I was in with all of these other balls of light were other people like me that were headed. We were headed. I didn't know exactly where we were headed, but I was so caught up in the moment. I wasn't even thinking about that. And next thing you know, I was laying flat, and it was just me at this moment. And it was very personal and it was very real. And I knew I was before God's throne. And I could feel the weight, like a weightiness, like almost like a squashing weightiness of his glory upon me and all around me. And I was holy, holy, holy. And I just felt like, wow, how am I even breathing in this presence? Like it was like a beautiful, terrifying presence. Yet there was so much love there that even if I were just in that moment and that's all I did was lay in that presence and under the weight of his glory for ever and ever and ever, like I would be so happy to do that because it felt like I was exactly where I belonged, even though it was very terrifying and weighty. So while I was in his presence at the throne, I started seeing, I knew Jesus was there and I couldn't see him because he was showing me, it was like he was showing me all of these, like almost like flipping through a life review of everything in my life that I had done. And I knew that I was fully seen and fully known, and that every single, even the thoughts in my mind, I was seen, and I was just laid bare before him. And I was so heartbroken. And this is, it still gets, it still kind of, it was such a profound moment. It still gets me sometimes because I remember thinking like, I was so undone because I realized like this whole time he's been here and I have not acknowledged him and I have not lived in his lordship. And then it was like he reached in to where I was and he pulled out this little tiny scrap. It was like a scrap of paper, like the tiniest scrap of paper. And he held it to his heart and he said, "Thank you." And I was like, what the heck? Like that was nothing. Like maybe even just the tiniest part of my life that just even acknowledged him just the tiniest bit. And he thanked me for that. And I remember just this profound grief that he has been here the whole time and I have not acknowledged him and I haven't lived for him. And I had such a grief because it was such a waste. And I just thought if I could go back, like I'm going to live for him, I'm going to give him everything so that my life, so when I stand before him, he will have more from me than what he just got. And so that was, as soon as that was over, I just woke up and I thought, it was so funny because I thought I was at this retreat and I thought everyone had that same experience like I did. And so I started going around trying to talk to people about it, even though I couldn't quite put words to it. And I could tell quickly that no one else had that experience. And I was like, what in the world just happened? So I kind of kept it quiet and wasn't quite sure what to do with it. And when I went back to church, I tried to talk to a pastor about it. He didn't know what to think about it either and didn't have much to say. So I kind of kept it to myself. But the last few years, I talked to another pastor about it. And I asked him if I should share it. And he said, I think that was a gift from the Lord and you should share it. So that's why I started sharing that. But I had another experience this was after I was walking with the Lord I guess I came to Christ at 30. This happened when I was 40. And I was going through, I had a stroke when I was 40. And I started going through a lot of major total health problems. And I honestly thought I was getting ready to go meet the Lord at that time. So, but I had a lot of really profound experiences during that time, but this is the most profound one. And it was, I believe it was a dream. I'm not sure if it was a dream or a vision or what it was. It was similar to the other one where what happened was I was in this boat and I believe this is kind of was a premonition of kind of the moment we're in now in time. And I'm hoping maybe other people might be able to help me explain this more fully, but it was awesome. But I was in this boat and it was super duper duper dark and I was rowing. There was this like really old man rowing me and this other guy to this dinner, but the dinner was taking place in a really dark cave. And the other guy with me, his name was Orion. And he was, the whole time we're in the boat and we're rowing to this dinner, and it was in the dark of night. He kept telling me, Jesus is not the only way. Jesus is not the only way. Like, why do you believe that? You're so stupid. Like, everyone knows this. And I kept saying, Orion, he is the only way. And there's nothing you can say, nothing you can do to change my mind. So we're going back and forth, and I'm just trying to keep my resolve and be kind, but also, direct. And then we've arrived at this banquet in this cave, and it's really kind of dark and ominous with all of this food, and it's kind of a weird environment. But we get in line for our food, and Orion's still behind me, still saying the same things. But all of a sudden, he becomes violently ill, and we're standing in line, and he's like, it goes from he's fine one minute, and the next minute he's violently ill, completely so sick. And he falls down, and I was like, Orion, I'm going to go get you some help. I'm so sorry this is happening. And so I start yelling for help from the people that are all sitting down at the banquet, and no one gets up, no one even pays any attention. And then so I said, Orion, I'm going to go see if I can find some help somewhere else. Please don't die. Just hang in there. I'm going to find someone. And I run to the back of the banquet, and I open this door, and then I'm all of a sudden in this white hallway that's going kind of horizontal. And I look to the right, and there's another door at the end of the white hallway. And I open the door to that. I open that door, and I walk in, and I'm all of a sudden, it's like I'm in heaven. And there's all these angels, and they're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, super fast. And they've got all of these parchments that they're looking at, and they're busy. And I keep yelling, help, help, help. Like, someone needs help, but they're not paying any attention. They're just about their business, and they've got major things going on. So I can tell that they're not about to leave their assignment to come help me. So I run back into Orion, and by this point, he's barely breathing. And I grab his shirt, and I say, Orion, I can't find anyone, but all I know to tell you to do is say that Jesus is the Lord, that Jesus is the Lord. If you say Jesus is the Lord, you're going to live. And as soon as I said that second time that Jesus is the Lord, my body shot up into the air, and all of this fire started coming out of my mouth and out of my hands and out of my feet. And the whole cave lit up in this bright light. And I was I couldn't even have any other awareness except for what was happening. And I was like, whoa, I don't know what's happening right now, but this is amazing. And I knew it was the power of God that was it wasn't even like a flow. It was like a fierce fire coming out, and it was lighting up the whole atmosphere. And that's all I became aware of. And all of a sudden I woke up, and I was back in my room. But when I woke up in my room, there was this holy fear reverence in my bedroom where I felt afraid to even breathe. I was like, whoa, it was I felt like the presence of the Lord before, and this amazing joy, but this was like a reverent fear of him. I don't know how to describe it. It was awesome, but fearful at the same time. And I tried to wake my husband up, and I said, don't move. God's right here in the room with us. And so that was that experience.
Wow.
And it was pretty profound. And I've been digging, what does Orion mean? I know that that's a star, so I don't know if that has something to do with it, but I've been praying about that for a long time, and what in the world that means. So I'm not 100% sure, but I just thought that was an amazing experience that I feel like it's something that will come to pass. I don't think it's about me. I think it's about the church, and maybe how we keep looking for help, but we don't realize that God, Jesus is the Lord, and he's already with us. And so anyway, that was that. And then the third experience is when I was actually, like I mentioned before, I was really sick. I had a stroke. And then right after my stroke, the doctors didn't know what caused the stroke. And so they were doing a lot of tests, but before those test results came back, I had pulmonary embolisms, which I did not know. I didn't even know what those were before it happened to me, but so this is actually kind of more like a near-death experience. And my husband, I just started having trouble breathing all of a sudden. And my husband was babysitting my next door neighbor's kids, and he was next door. We had just gotten home from the hospital a few days prior from my stroke. And while I was in the hospital, like when it rains, it pours, our house flooded. And so he was next door trying to deal with what happened and trying to clean up from the mess that happened from that. And so anyway, I was next door and I started having trouble breathing, and I really didn't want to bother him because I felt like, and I also wasn't sure because my body was I didn't fully understand what was happening and with my body still. So I didn't know if this was like normal after a stroke. But after a while I called like my nurse hotline, and the nurse hotline told me, "You're having a lot of trouble breathing. I'm going to call an ambulance to come get you unless you're going to get in the car and go to the emergency room right now." So I went and had my daughter go get my husband and tell him what was going on. And so he immediately picked me up. But by that time, I was too weak to even walk and to get in the car. And we started heading for the hospital. And so we lived at that time over where you had to cross a bridge, and where the hospital we were going was in a beach area. And so when we ended up coming across the Causeway Bridge, I could feel myself start dying. And what it felt like, it was before that, I was concentrating so hard on just trying to breathe, because I couldn't get a breath in like that. I couldn't do that. I was just trying so hard to even get like the smallest little area of breath into my lungs. And so that's all I could think about. Like, I wasn't really thinking about what was happening or anything. I was so concentrated on just breathing. And then if there was a thought in my mind, it was like, breathing is so natural. Like, I've never had to think about breathing before. And so, but here I am and I can't breathe. And I remember thinking, like, God has our breath. Like, our breath is not even ours. Like, asking for his breath back right now. And I think I'm dying. And I said that, like, when we got over the Causeway Bridge, the last thing I said was, I'm dying. And I could feel like, it felt like from starting with my toes, going up through my legs, like I could feel literally life leaving me. And then when it got to, like, I couldn't even move like any part of my body. It was like it was gone, like it wasn't even there anymore. And then when it got to my mouth and my face, all of a sudden, before I could even realize like that I couldn't breathe anymore, it was like all of a sudden I didn't need to breathe anymore because I was in a different atmosphere. And it wasn't like I was still right there in the truck, but I could move my head and my arms started raising, but I was unconscious. So my physical arms were not raising, but my spirit arms were. And I looked around and it was like the whole world just looked different. Like, we were literally going over the water, and I remember turning my head to the right and seeing the water, and it was like the water was alive. Like, it was like all these different colors, like diamonds shining, and it was like vibrant, like energy was bouncing all around me. And I was like, whoa, the world is so beautiful. Like, how have I never noticed this before?
Hey, before we get back to the episode, my father has a free gift for you. So let me explain. For those of you that don't know, my father was an underground minister in Kiev, Ukraine. My father risked his life preaching the gospel on the streets of Kiev, Ukraine, at the time when it wasn't popular or allowed. And he also raised a family of 9 children in the most hostile environment. There's so many lessons that he learned throughout his journey. And for years, I've been begging him. I was saying, Father, please write a book about your life, about your journey. And he would always dismiss it as, who wants to read book about my life. And I was like, my children, me. And so, you know what? Finally, he sat down, he wrote the book. He did it in like 1 week. I translated the book to English, and both of us, we want you to have this book for absolutely free. And the way to get this book is super simple. Go to Instagram, find me at God's Voice Today, and send me a private message with the word book, and I will automatically send you a link to get it. And now let's get back to the episode. Enjoy.
Anyway, that was like so cool. And I could feel God all around me. I could feel Jesus's hands underneath my head. But by the time, that was very quick, because we pulled into the hospital and something hit me in the chest really hard. And all of a sudden I was back into my body and very aware, of all the heaviness and the panic and of people all around me and everything that was going on. And so, but that was such a profound experience. And it really, all three of those really have given me such a peace, even about dying. As scary as that was, it never got to the point where terror took over. The peace was there before even terror could have a chance to get to me. And, just the reality of the Lord and his presence and his kingdom is more real than everything that we're going through here. And I forgot to say the one thing about whenever I was having the near-death experience, what it felt like was like all of this life had been like a dream, and that was the reality. I was waking up to where I really had been the whole time, but this life felt like a dream, that one of those crazy, kind of scary dreams. You're like, oh, I'm so glad that that's over. Right? Yes. And so it was like, wow, I don't know. But anyway, I'm still here, and I love the Lord. I study his word, and I just really pray to him, and I try to keep that atmosphere in my heart at all times. And it's really changed my life. I'm so grateful for those experiences and grateful for him walking with me through all of it.
I love how you said our breath is not even ours. We're on borrowed time, if you think about it. I never thought of it that way. It's like he took the breath away that he gave us in the beginning.
Yeah. It definitely felt like that. I was like, wow, this breath, it's in Acts 17, it says, in him we live, move, and breathe and have our being. And I was like, wow, now I get that. This is literally his breath, and he's asking for it back. And it was so, and I get that now. I didn't, before those were just words on a page, but now I've actually felt it in my body.
I mean, it's kind of like, how can you live a selfish life when you know that the breath, your breath is not yours. The body was gifted to you, right? Everything in life you work for, but your gifts and talents, everything he gave you, it's all his. In the end, it's got a parable of a sower. What did you do with the gifts and everything I gave you? And man, I don't want to stand before him empty-handed,
Yes. I want to live every moment in light of that.
Why do you think those experiences happen to you?
I don't know fully, but I believe it has something to do with my calling, that he's giving me a gift of, I became a counselor. And I thought I was because I grew up with a lot of trauma, and I've had to learn a lot of spiritual warfare, or it was, when you come to Christ and you're like, my life's going to be great now, but it gets so much harder, because then the enemy's against you and he's coming after you. And I did not know, I really didn't know how to be a Christian. And I've really prayed from early on, teach me, Lord, I need to know. And I believe some of those experiences happened as a way for him to show me the reality of how his kingdom works. For instance, whenever I had the first experience, I was just a brand new baby believer, and I didn't realize how much unforgiveness affects, it creates a welcome mat for the enemy. And so I believe he was showing me, you have to forgive people that hurt you, like especially these wounds that go all the way back into childhood, because the enemy, that affects our mind and it affects our beliefs and our faith in God. And so, and I believe he was showing me, like when he pulled the little bitty part out of me, that this is all that matters. Like if you don't have anything to offer me if you are holding unforgiveness against another person, you can't even get to me until your mind and your soul is clear of all that. And so that has always kept me very aware, like, this heart belongs to Jesus, and I have no business trying to put my scale of right and wrong over it. Like I'm his, and everything about me has to belong to him fully. And that's the only way I have anything to offer him.
It's actually freeing, right? When you think of it that way, that I'm his, for example, even like every time I get nervous about these shows, sometimes I sit and just process everything like, man, a lot of stuff is happening. But God gave me this, 9-10 years ago, Jesus appeared to me in a dream, told me he'll help me. Every time I get anxious, I just remind myself, I'm his, I'm in his will. I'm doing, the safest place to be is an assignment. And so what am I worried about? You know what I mean? Like, what am I worried about?
Yeah. You don't have anything to worry about. And if you're his, that means all of your stuff is his too. So all of the things before you belong to him. They're his responsibility. And your job is just to be faithful and knowing that. It's very freeing to realize that.
Super freeing. And some people say like, well, that's almost like you're a slave. It's like, man, it's freeing to know that somebody else is like, God is leading me. As long as you lean into him, not try to do it your own way. Yeah. That's when problems come.
Yeah.
But then
it's not like you're a slave. It's like you're a son.
Yes.
That's what you are.
Yes.
You are his.
And so anyway, that's how anytime I'm anxious, anytime I'm stressed, I'm like, what am I worried about? He told me he'll help me. He told me he won't give me more than I can handle. Now,
that's right.
As long as, connected, rooted, and grounded in him, now the moment you walk away from that, you're outside his protection. Well, Rhonda, thank you so much for pulling over to the side. Are you still in the parking lot?
Yes.
Okay, appreciate it. Well, you were in the church parking lot. It was like extra anointing coming from all of that. Thank you so much for taking the time from everything you had going on to schedule it with me and encourage.
What a blessing.
The people.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll stay in touch. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay. God bless you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, if this story moved you, there's definitely more. Every day, someone new shares their supernatural encounter with Jesus. So hit subscribe and don't miss what's coming up next. And if you're ready for another powerful testimony, tap the next video on your screen right now, and I'll see you there.